We are headed to the hospital.
What's up, what's up, what's up?
We're fired up.
Yep. We've waited a long time for this, buddy. Looking forward to meeting you tonight. And this is the start of a beautiful life and big things.
We can't wait.
There you go, buddy.
Love you.
Love you.
I'm incredibly excited because I think in terms of journeys that we go on in life, there's none bigger than that of having a child and bringing a human into this world. And I'm here with my very good friend, Kristina, who it was about almost a year ago to the day that I was in Naples, Florida with you and your family. And it was a pretty exciting time because Shawnee, your husband's brother, had just had his third child, and you guys announced that you were going to be having your own little man, Daniel the third, DC3. So I'm going to dive really deep, and I can't wait to hear all about the process, the journey you've been on, both in having him and now as a mum and raising this little guy. So to start with, I guess I better give a bit of an intro as to who is Kristina. You are a successful marketing executive, I think it can be said, for one of the biggest fashion houses in New York City. Just give me an overview of your journey to date. Talk about whatever you feel like talking about in terms of leading up to having DC3 and now as a mum.
Okay, well, I mean, like you said, it's quite the journey. And, you know, it's nice that you gave me an intro, and I did. I worked for Saks Fifth Avenue and Net-a-Porter. I'm just so grateful for all the experiences that I had, but the greatest of them all was giving birth to DC3 and now finally being a mom. It's a journey that I love to share with all of my old friends, new friends, co-workers, and I'm just happy where I am.
As a mum?
Yes.
Yeah. And
it's a wild ride.
okay, so let's rewind, because I met you on your honeymoon.
Yes.
You and Daniel, we were in Greece on a sailing boat, cruising around Santorini.
Ton of drinks.
Yeah, exactly. And so I guess, firstly, did you always see yourself as being a mother at some stage? Like growing up, was this something you always wanted to do?
What a great question. Honestly, I met Dan. I knew he was the one. We are similar to you and Juliana. We love to travel. We love food. We love wine. And I think at the back of our minds, we knew we wanted to be parents.
Yeah.
But we had no idea what was in store for us.
Yeah.
And so sitting on this side of the fence, it's unbelievable.
And so in terms of that, like what was the catalyst? You had been married, what, a year or two by this stage that you decided to have Dan?
So we actually had Dan, we got pregnant 3 years into our marriage. And we were trying before that, and it just so happened to be that on the third year, DC3 was ready.
Yeah, okay. And so was that a big, of course it's a big decision, but was it like, was there a lot of talk that you and Dan had to do, or was it, you know, now's the time, like clearly, and like how did that come about?
So there is no right time ever, because if that was the case, then everybody would be doing it. But I will say that we knew we wanted to have a family. We knew we wanted to have multiple kids. And I think both of us looked at each other and said, we've lived such a great life to this day. Let's make it better. Let's take it to the next level. And that's when we decided, okay, what is that journey going to look like? And how can we better prepare for that, especially bringing a human into the world?
And so that was like a series, you know, you took it, of course, really seriously, but those were really, I guess, structured conversations that you had with Dan, your husband, as to, okay, we're going to do this. What's it going to look like? What types of parents do we want to be? What do we want this kid to be like? You know, like, were you having those really deep conversations?
Absolutely. So this is where family of origin comes into play. There's a reason why we are the way that we are. There are things in my life personally that I've had happen in my life, so I can use that as a reflection of the future. Do I want to take the good, the bad? Dan too, he grew up in a family with 2 brothers, a sister, big family. I had half brothers. So for me, it was looking at what do we want to take from my family of origin and what do we want to take from Dan's family of origin, and how can we make it our own?
Yeah, I love that family of origin, and taking the best of both worlds and making it better. And I think that's a big part of just human evolution in general. What do I love about what my parents did, and what do I not like, and what's the sort of kid that I want to bring into the world? Okay, so you're having those conversations. You're like, yeah, time's right. Like we just got to do this thing, and so you bite the bullet. And talk me through, like, you find out you're pregnant the first time. Like, what does that feel like?
Oh my gosh, it's unbelievable. Because Dan and I talked about it. We wanted a child. We wanted a family. So it's not, we're not done yet.
Yeah.
But when you first look down and see the 2 positive signs, you're speechless. You look at your partner and you say, holy crap.
Did you know before you saw those 2 lines, you're like, I'm pretty sure, or were you?
So there was a part of me that was feeling very off. I even remember we were out in California. It was Easter weekend. And normally I'm outgoing, I'm fun, and something was very reserved and quiet and still in me. And I said, okay, something's off, and this isn't usually how I am.
Not like a nauseousness, or it was like you just actually didn't feel yourself.
Right. It was something that I truly just felt off. And then I said to Dan, I said, could it be? And he said, I don't know, let's not speculate and get our hopes up. And it was. That's exactly what it was.
So you see these 2 lines when you finally get the confirmation, your heart starts racing, I imagine. Was Dan there when this?
I ran out, yes.
Yeah, wow, amazing.
And again, Dan is very cautious. I'm like over the moon, calling my mom, and you have to take a break, especially with pregnancy. It's delicate. And I think he was more cautious to celebrate and said, let's kind of wait and see where the next 12 weeks bring us. So we were really mindful of kind of sharing the news, which is exactly why you were in the room when we announced to Dan's entire family all at once. No one got special treatment.
It was such a wonderful moment. I was so lucky to be there, Jules and I. And okay, so you've got the news, and now, I guess, what does it feel like for someone watching this to have a human growing inside of you? Like, what is that? I can't even fathom.
Yeah, it's wild. As the weeks go on, there are different milestones. So you hear DC3 will have a heartbeat, or he'll start kicking. It's just wild. And because it's my first child, Dan and I were going through this journey again, like first time, everything was exciting, and every corner you turn is exciting.
And is that is it a day by day thing, or is it like, okay, there's a heartbeat, then like 2 weeks later there's something else and there's a kick, and then?
Yeah, it's kind of, pregnancy is much slower now that I'm, of course, have a almost 7-month-old at home.
Yeah.
I look back at my pregnancy and it was slower than how life is flying by now. So it would be weeks before maybe you might hear a heartbeat, or maybe you might feel a kick, or then turns, and it's a slower process, and it's a long 9 months.
Yeah.
And so when that kid comes out, it goes quick.
Yeah. And do you want to talk about when DC3 was born?
I can share, yes.
Yeah, because it's quite an incredible story, and it certainly had my heart racing.
Yeah, sorry in advance if tears come, but it was, again, like I said, pregnancy is a little bit on the slower side, and those last few days and weeks, you're just waiting for this child. Most moms usually go late the first time, and I'll never forget, I went to the doctor during my 39th week appointment, and she said, listen, this kid, he's comfortable. What do you want to do? Do you want to be induced? And Dan and I made the decision that at 1 week plus, so 41 weeks, that we would go. We went into the hospital. We knew that it was planned. And that's the thing. Everyone who has a plan, I can honestly say, it sometimes doesn't go like that. You're going to get tossed a curveball. And when I went into delivery, I went in at 7 p.m. I was induced, and then by 9 in the morning, I was 9 centimeters dilated. I would think that I would start giving birth fairly soon. And my doctor made the decision to wait until 12 in the afternoon. And, you know...
And you're already 9 centimeters dilated.
At 9 a.m. So she gave me
3 hours.
She gave me my best option to let him lower down the canal as much as he can.
Yeah.
So basically it would be an easier delivery on me. Unbeknownst to us, his heart rate was getting lower and lower as we neared 12. And so when I started pushing, she came into the room, she said, okay, like, it's go time. And it went from being myself, Dan, the doctor, the nurse, and immediately we kind of knew something was off because my doctor is very calm by nature. And she looked at me and she said, I want you to pay attention to what I'm saying, that we have a little bit of an issue and you only have 3 pushes to get him out. And at that point, I looked at Dan, and again, it was definitely difficult to know that I only had 3 tries, but I pushed once. In between breaks, Dan gave me oxygen. I pushed twice, and then on the 3rd time, he came out, but he wasn't breathing. So the hard part on my end was done, but now I think the most difficult part was emotionally. You just delivered a baby, and you're waiting for the first cry, but the room was dead silent. So I look at Dan, Dan looks at me, both of us have water in our eyes, we're not really sure, and basically it was the longest minute of our life. It went from being the 4 of us to 15 people in the room raced in. Obviously, most of those people were to tend to DC3, and after what felt like eternity, he finally let out his first cry. And at that point, I just realized how my journey was just, I had the perfect pregnancy. I had visions of the perfect delivery, and it didn't go like that. You know, you have to be ready for anything, and I'm so grateful for my experience and that was the way that it happened, that Dan and I look at him in a much different way than had we just had an easy breezy delivery, walked out of there in 2 days.
Yeah, well, I mean, you realize how precious life is when...
Absolutely.
You know, thank you so much for sharing that, because I know it's never easy to take you back there. But I think it's so important for others to know that, you know, that if things do go wrong, you know, that other people have gone through it. On to a brighter subjects. DC3 enters the world, the little terror.
He's so amazing.
And yeah, talk to me. So like, you get through that. As of course, you know, you hear the first cry. Talk me through what that feels like to actually, you know, have this guy in your arms, healthy, breathing.
I kept looking at Dan, my husband, and I couldn't believe that we made it that far. That's where we were, that's where we were sitting, and this was our new life. There was no turning back. So to me, it's just, I'll never forget that. We'll have more kids, but you'll never be able to take away that moment from us.
It was in that moment, life changed and you knew it. And I mean, was it what you expected? It, of course, what happened wasn't what you were expecting, but was that feeling what you expected, or was it just like you can't even describe?
Oh, it's so overwhelming, and I'm sure that other mothers can attest to this. When your first child is, you know, brought to you and in your hands for the first time, you only dream of moments like that, but the feelings surpass what you think it's going to be.
Wow. And in terms of your own identity, you know, you were previously this successful businesswoman, moving up the ranks in these companies, and now your identity is motherhood.
Yeah.
Did you expect that? Was this sort of planned, or was it just like, this is like, well, how could I ever do anything else than?
This is such a good question, because both Dan and I we love our jobs, and I loved my coworkers. I went into work every day. In the morning, I came in happy. At the end of the day, I walked out happy.
Yeah.
And so we together made a decision that for me, it was much more difficult to leave at 3 months, Danny at home, and to go back than it was to go into work and try to make it work. I wouldn't, for the life of me, miss any of these milestones. And so it looks a little bit different, and it's a little bit trying for somebody who, like you said, you work your entire life to, build your career and make these connections. And for me, my bond with Danny is the greatest thing that I could ever ask for.
Yeah, and so you're not even, like, it's not like you're like, you don't miss that, as much as you love that world that you were in, you're so happy with DC3 and the life that you are now building with him, and DC2, I should say, that, it doesn't enter your mind much, or it does, or...
It does, absolutely, because, motherhood is 24/7. There are no breaks. There are none. And so at work, if you're passionate or you have projects and you complete things and you move on to the next things, there's always times where I'm looking at my old previous e-commerce sites and I'm wondering, well, how could I have done that better? What would I do now? And so it is in the back of my mind, but it's not to say that he doesn't grow up and I do something even greater.
Yeah, exactly. And okay, now let's talk about DC3 himself. And he's 7 months old now. I want to dive into what is, and I do this for every journey every interview that I do, but it's so different, the questions when it pertains to an actual human being as opposed to skydiving or playing guitar or whatever. So what does success look like with DC3? Like, what would you be so happy about if in, let's say, 3 years, 10 years, 20 years?
Wow.
Is there do you have a view of that, or is it just like, I just want my baby to be healthy and happy?
So success is exactly that. You want your baby to be healthy. You want your baby to be happy. You want to do everything you can for your child. But I think the biggest thing is probably him growing up to be exactly who he wants to be. Those are going to be our milestones. I want DC3 to live this world and be in a kind, caring world where he gets to choose, and that to me is success. While Dan and I are the foundation for him, I want him to be able to choose his happiness.
And choose his own path.
Yeah.
Yeah, very cool. What are the things that you wish you knew going into being, like when you were pregnant,
Yeah.
before you were pregnant? And then same question again, but for motherhood.
Okay. So pregnancy, I had a really easy pregnancy. So I really didn't go into it expecting much. So there looking back on it, was I anxious? Yes, but I think once I was 3 months and we started telling our friends, we kind of just let things go naturally. So with pregnancy, that was one thing. And then with motherhood, it just looks a little bit different because you want to be able to ask your girlfriends, your family members for advice. You want to know what this journey looks like. I mean, especially for somebody like me who has a to-do list and is
super organized. Yeah.
I had a very difficult time giving birth to a human being and basically training on the job. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know if I was doing things right or wrong. And that's why with pregnancy, it's kind of, it is what it is. You're gonna feel either really great or not great. But motherhood is, you have to ask around. And some people might give you answers and that might not work for you and your child. But I would say the biggest thing is being able to find resources that you can really just explore and see, okay, well, this person had this type of journey. Will that work for me? Can I write these things down? Can I be prepared? So I think in that sense, that's how you can prepare for motherhood.
And so that was that's been the most useful for you is
Absolutely.
finding other mothers in your network
Yes.
and asking them questions and
Yes.
probably, you know, bouncing ideas off each other and asking each other questions. And is that was that something you did proactively to find those people, or is it they were already friends of yours and, you know?
So my sister-in-law, like you were saying, Sean and Lindsay had a baby a couple of months before Dan and I had DC3. So she's a tremendous resource, a huge inspiration. She's a mom of 3.
She's a super mom, that's for sure.
She's a super mom. I mean, she has my heart. Every time I have something going on, I run to Lindsay.
Yeah.
She's my rock.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think you really should find somebody, and if you don't, reach out to friends of friends, family, anybody, to have somebody like that.
And I think looking at Linz and you, there's enough similarity. Like I can see that the advice that she would give you is also, I guess what I'm trying to say is the way that she's raising her 3 are similar to the way I think you would like to raise DC3. Is that fair to say? And so it's important to find that person that's,
Right.
you know, aligned in your way of thinking culturally and
Values, absolutely.
yeah, cool. Challenges. So, firstly with pregnancy, what are the challenges that you, I guess, maybe you expected, maybe you didn't, but that someone watching this would be like, I know you had an easy pregnancy until the end, but what was challenging for you?
In terms of pregnancy or motherhood?
Pregnancy first, and then we'll go to
Okay.
motherhood.
So pregnancy, I'll be pretty honest, you have a human growing inside of you, and you know, with nowadays, a lot of girls are conscious about their bodies, there's social media, and a lot of it looks perfect. And when you are nearing that 35 week and your stomach is
starting to waddle, yeah.
You're huge, you're hot, you just want this baby out of you. Things they get trying.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not gonna lie, towards the end there, it's a difficult time.
Just things that start happening in your body.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And maybe I won't ask you about the specifics of that, but I think it is important. Maybe, I don't know, we'll do something in the resources piece around what people need to read to become well acquainted with what's maybe going to happen.
Yes.
So that was like the biggest challenge was really getting to that 35-week mark, and you're huge at this stage.
Yes.
And are you exhausted as well? Like,
you're tired, you're exhausted, and again, pregnancy looks so different for everybody. So if my legs are swollen and I'm reaching out to Lindsay like, hey, did this happen to you? It could have not. So again, like you're just wondering day by day, when is this baby gonna come? Those last few weeks are not easy.
and any advice of how to get through those in the best way possible?
Yes, the greatest advice that was given to me by my mom is you're not the first and you're not the last to have a child. Everyone is going through this journey. Everyone has their own way of doing it. Everyone's going through different things. You just have to do it for the sake of yourself, your family, and your child.
Yeah. Basically, in a nice way, suck it up, princess. You're going to get through it.
Yep, you're gonna do it.
I
You're
like
gonna
it.
deliver a baby.
Yeah, classic mum advice.
Yes.
Okay, and now let's go on to DC3. Dan, biggest challenges you've had. You're 7-month-old now, and every day is different.
Oh man, I mean, and I just have to start by saying that the good outweighs the challenges. It does. Every day is so beautiful. No matter how hard it is, it's amazing. So there are challenges, and there are different challenges at different milestones, really. So the biggest thing for me was breastfeeding. It's not uncommon. I took Danny home, and the first week was extremely difficult, and I called my mom over. I said, I'm done. I don't want to breastfeed. This is exhausting, and I'm doing it.
Because of the pain, or is it?
It's just every 2 to 3 hours, you don't know how much your baby's eating. I had a hard time learning how to burp him. Again, you're training on the job. So
Yeah.
for me, it was just, I think I was trying to learn too much at once, and
Are
it
you
was
looking at
overwhelming.
YouTube to do, like, how do you even figure this stuff out?
I honestly, like I said, a lot of the time you have to Google things, or you have to reach out to your friends. Like, there wasn't a place where I could go to and just see, oh, okay, this is how you position your baby. So, challenge number 1, breastfeeding. My solution, I had to hire a lactation consultant to come to my home. She sat with me for an hour, and she weighed DC3 before the breastfeeding and then after the breastfeeding, and we learned, okay, it's just taking him a longer amount of time to feed. He's eating X amount of ounces, and that's what pushed me forward. I said, okay, I got this.
So as soon as you knew that that was just normal,
right, I
you
can
were
move
like,
on
okay,
to the next challenge.
Okay, I understand what's going on here. Let's go on to the next thing. And any other advice that lactation consultant gave you that would be valuable?
So she gave me a huge list of things, and it comes down to positioning the latch of the baby depending on how they're attaching. And also, some children have issues latching on. Some children are biting down, or some women experience pain. So it really does depend on your body and how your baby is. She gave me great tips on, okay, if you want to pump and leave milk for DC3 when your mom comes over to watch him, here's X amount of days it's going to stay in the fridge, X amount of days it's going to stay in the freezer. Again, they do have books, but you're in live time.
Yeah.
You need somebody there.
And you're on zero sleep, and
yes,
like you're trying to figure this stuff out.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Did you? Okay, that's challenge number 1. Let's keep going. Stay on the challenges.
Okay, so breastfeeding, and then we had colic. DC3, I mean, I don't know if you came on a night where he was good, but he would cry for 3 hours at a time. That was 3 months of that.
What is colic?
Colic is basically the baby crying from 6 to like 9 at night, and it's because it's called witching hour, so maybe they're restless or uncomfortable. It could be things that you ate earlier in the day that are coming out in your breast milk. I mean, it's wild, but colic is no joke. He was upset for 3 months straight. We could barely go out.
Oh my goodness.
That was challenge number 3.
And so...
How did we get through it?
Yeah, like what do you even...
Hello.
And because you're also thinking about, what am I doing wrong? And, you know, it's like...
Ton of alcohol. It's the only way you get through. But we made it. It was... When you're in it, and when you're out, you're out.
And so you knew that this was just a period, a phase that he was going through.
And that was that. You had to get through.
And that was that because you spoke to Lindsay or some, like, how did you know that that was just a phase?
Yes. So again, Lindsay, my go-to, but there were times where we would look up witching hour or colic or uncontrollable crying. Dan always jokes about this. He'll say, you call the pediatrician more often than you call me. I do. I have him on speed dial if something's wrong or I thought that something was wrong. I mean, that's what they're there
And great
for.
advice there as well. Like, have a trusted pediatrician that you can just jump on the phone to. Okay, so that's challenge number 2.
Yes. And then I think the biggest thing now is really just, he's getting mobile. And that, you know, it's a blur. It just happened so fast. So I took a baby home. I had a hard time breastfeeding. I got through it. I mean, listen, we're at 7 months. I feel accomplished. And now we had colic. That was 3 months. And now we're nearing 7 months here. And he's beginning to sit. He wants to crawl. And probably before I know it, he's going to start walking. That's a scary thing.
Yeah, he's going to be running around
That's
like
my
mad.
next challenge,
Yeah.
but I'm in the middle here.
Well, if he's anything like his dad, he's going to be running around the place.
God help me.
That's a good segue actually into milestones. And again, let's start with pregnancy. Was there, and I'm sure these are pretty standard, but specific milestones that you sort of went through?
Yes, absolutely. So the first is you find out that you're pregnant. You're excited, you're over the moon. Dan was cautious. And I saw the 2 lines and I said, okay, this is it. Called my mom. You get everyone excited. And so you then call your doctor and you say, I am pregnant. And then your doctor says, okay, come in, let's take a look. And so at that point, you take a look at the heartbeat. So very cool. First milestone. You know, it's different than just getting 2 positive lines. You're in the room and you hear something other than yourself and your husband. It's neat.
So you can actually, they've got the, what do you call it, the
sonogram,
Yeah.
and they put it over your stomach, and you hear
this beat.
Yeah, and it's wild.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's wild. And that's milestone number 1. And then, you know, there's 16 weeks where you do your first ultrasound just to make sure that the body's developing, the brain, the chambers of the heart. I mean, there are things that we were looking at that I just look at in such a different light. It's unbelievable. You're looking at your child's heart.
Yeah.
It's wild.
And seeing this little guy start to take shape.
Yes. And then I think the other milestone is really the kicking, is because that is finally when I think the husband can lay down at the end of the night or sit on the couch and feel their son or daughter kick.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's neat.
And so when Dan, your husband, did that and could feel your belly and the kick, what was his reaction?
We just looked at each other, and every moment that I had, I remember the face that Dan made or the reactions that we've had.
And did the kick hurt? Did the kicks hurt as well?
Not really, but it would get uncomfortable towards the end. Yeah. But at the beginning, they're not bad.
Okay, so keep going through the milestones. So now then there's the kick.
Yeah, and then really you get to a point where you go to your doctor, and it's a great moment when you find out that your baby's head down, ready to go, and that's when you're really waiting. So aside from delivering him, those are the great milestones you get to look forward to.
What's that feel like when you just playing the waiting game? Like, are you anxious?
Yes, especially me, who I have my entire calendar, weeks, months, years planned out.
Yeah. And there's nothing you can do. You just
it's not.
Yeah.
And so I would go to bed every night in those last couple of weeks, and I would look at Dan before we went to bed. I'm like, tonight's the night. And he's just like, just go to bed. I was so convinced that he was coming, and it didn't happen that way. He was comfortable.
Yeah, he was chilling. He was hanging out. Okay, and so milestones now since DC3 was born.
So you take home a baby who's 7 pounds and 7 ounces. A newborn is so delicate, and you're afraid to care for this child because they're so small, and you realize...
I remember seeing him when he was, I think I met him when he was about 2 weeks.
Yes.
He was
small.
tiny.
And they're not opening their eyes, or if they are, they're going right back to bed. It's eat, sleep, poop, repeat.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
And when you start to see the first few weeks turn into opening their eyes and a smile, and not just, some people think that maybe your baby might not smile intentionally at 1 month. Dan and I were like, this child is smiling intentionally. He was alert, he was happy. He had FOMO. He didn't even want to go to bed at that point. He was like, okay, this is a good world.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Yes. So small milestones like the first smile, the first laugh, the rollovers, the sitting, everything. It's just, I can't imagine not being there.
Was the first few weeks difficult in terms of you just want to engage with this guy, and he's still getting used to the world?
So I will say that he's learning about the world around him, but you're also learning about your new life. It was difficult in different ways. You are the woman is in a blur, and Dan was so tired that we both felt delusional. But every day you get up and you do everything it takes to make it to the next day. I will say, the first few days and weeks, I think up until maybe a month or 2 months, I was in a total fog.
Is that just because you're getting used to it yourself? Or?
Yes, because you're running on no sleep. You're learning on the job, so you're not entirely sure, am I doing everything right? Am I wrong? You're Googling things. You're talking to your friends. You're trying to find time to talk to your friends. And so it's kind of boot camp.
Yeah, and you got people coming around, and was it, because you hear of this from friends that it's really difficult. And so your expectation would have been probably that it was going to be quite tough. How did the actual reality compare to your expectation going into it?
So great question, because I asked, I did, and people will say that it's great, it's amazing, and I think that sometimes we don't talk about how difficult it is, because I will be quite honest, it's very challenging, especially the women who were in the workforce and are home for 3 months, and like I said, it's non-stop. And so you're just trying to really learn with your child, because every day is something new. You're learning something new about him or her. You're learning something new about your husband. So I think people will tell you, yes, it's difficult, but it's really great. And maybe it's actually the people on the other side of that journey who are about to become pregnant or about to become moms that don't realize until you're in it. I will say, all of my friends that gave me advice, I now know what they're talking about, because
Yeah.
I'm there.
And I mean, so you're completely in over your head, and you're tired. How did things go, like relationship-wise, with Dan? I mean, you guys are, I think, the best couple of all time. But going through that tough time when you're both tired,
Yeah.
like, and you're both trying to, you know, this is the most important thing in your life to date, probably in your own minds. How did that affect you guys, and I guess, did you talk about it?
Yes. So family of origin, my family talks about everything. And for Dan, I think it's a little bit more difficult to kind of sit down and let's talk about it. So I think this is where we kind of had to meet in the middle, and it was a big change for me, I think, because again, with breastfeeding, I felt like I was nonstop in the nursing chair. I kind of felt a moment where maybe I was a little bit disconnected from Dan. And then I took a moment and I said, okay, is this me? Is this how I'm feeling? Is he feeling the same way? And so when we sat down and we spoke about it, and Dan was quite honest, saying that we're just going through something new. We're both learning. And so the beauty in that allowed me to put aside how I might have been feeling disconnected to, this is just something new. While this might not be a journey that we had before together, this is just where, of course, we have a child. It's not...
But you have to remind yourself about that sometimes. It's like, it's not something that you didn't know already, but
Right.
you just get so stuck in
Yes.
every bit of, you know, and you're tired.
Exactly.
Yeah, you have to take a step back and...
Yeah, and there was a moment where my mom came in and both of us went out to breakfast, and I looked at him and I said, do you remember when it was just us two?
Yeah.
And he was just like, you know what? It feels like ages ago, because that's what it feels like. You know, even when we have moments where we put Dan to bed and we're on the couch together, it's just a different way with your husband. It's beautiful.
And you get into is there a new rhythm and
Oh, yeah.
like you have to plan
Oh yeah.
all of that sort of stuff and sit down and go, okay, because there's just so much that has to happen every day.
Yes.
And so it was that, and knowing you, super organized, this is you sitting down with Dan and going, okay, this is how it's got to work.
Yes.
Is that how it worked? Like, is that what happened?
So, listen, the way that I was before, and you'll see, you changed drastically. I don't even remember how I used to be the way. Now it's kind of like, okay, this is my expectation of it, but this is how it's actually going to go. Or it's a total toss-up. We might not even get any of this. I think that we both have just learned that we have a child, and for the time being, we're just rolling with the punches. That, you know, there's no set plan. And I kind of like that. This is something new for me, and I'm embracing it. And I actually think that I'm looking forward to this new type of way of living, because it's rewarding when you don't feel stressed or you're not on a timeline. We went out with you guys for Mother's Day brunch, and you run 15 minutes late, but everyone understands. Or your baby cries for half the brunch. Again, this is just, you get through it. You enjoy the people that you're with. You enjoy the moments that you have, and everything else is just extra.
It's quite cool though. So you actually had to kind of do a mindset shift where you kind of realized that you just can't plan this stuff.
No.
And so you're going to drive yourself insane trying to plan it. And so you just got to, eventually you just were like, I'm actually just better off if I
And it's
change my mindset.
wonderful. And it's crazy to think that a child has changed the way that I think in general, or even the way that, you know, we live our life now. It's great.
Yeah. Okay. I think that that's pretty much everything for the main part. Now, we just have a few quick fire questions.
Okay.
Kristina, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, your favorite book?
Great Gatsby.
Great Gatsby. Great answer. Favorite movie?
The Holiday.
Terrible answer.
I
Terrible
love
answer.
Cameron
I'm not
Diaz.
judging. Your favorite place to spend some time with little DC3?
Central Park.
Central Park. Great answer. There he is in the background right now. I think he
I
wants to
miss
go to the
him
park.
already.
I know. We're nearly done. Your favorite place to travel?
Positano. We got engaged there, so it's a special place.
Love. Yep. Great. Yeah. We just got back ourselves, so I feel that. Your next travel destination?
I really hope we go to Australia.
About bloody time, I would say. Your favorite place to relax and switch off? I don't think you get a lot of time to do that these days, but where is it?
I don't, but it's actually our bedroom. We don't have a TV in our bedroom, and it's really, I don't mind taking a book and going in there, or taking the computer and just unwinding. It's really our special place because I think we have no distractions.
Yeah, nice. And sounds to me like that's quite important to have a place like that, too, because you just go. And big question to finish off: if you were to write a book, Kristina, what would that book be about?
Motherhood.
Yeah, nice. Love it. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I've had a great time. I like a lot of this stuff I don't get from just having dinner with you guys, so it's been a learning experience for me.
It really has. Thank you.
And made me a little bit excited to bring my own DC3 into the world one of these days.
Please, we need friends.
Yeah, and we'll be hitting you guys up. You'll be Al Lindsay.
Yes, exactly. You need them.